Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Teen Talk Central. This week's episode is a little different because the day this is uploaded, it's actually my birthday, which is really exciting. So I thought in this week's episode we could talk about kind of reflecting on your birthday and the kind of new year, new me mindset. If this is something that you want to listen to or like always you want to support, then continue listening to this week's episode. Okay guys, so I want to start off and say kind of why birthdays can feel like a really big deal. I think birthdays to me feel like a mini New Year's Day because I feel like a new year is just a new start and like a new opportunity for me to kind of change up my life and become the best person I want to be. I think there can be a mix of excitement and pressure, and it's like, am I where I thought I'd be? Like this time last year, I definitely thought I'd be in a very different state. I would be friends with a bunch of different people, but I'm really happy with where I am right now in my life, and I would not change anything for it. As always, let's get into the psychology behind it. So there are kind of temporal landmarks in our brain, and it's basically how our birthdays act as mental reset buttons. And psychology actually calls these the fresh start effect, basically allowing you to kind of reset and do stuff from like section 1 of your brain, and gives you a fully kind of nice idea of where to start and kind of restart your brain. We're wired to reflect more deeply around milestones because milestones are kind of an opportunity for us to see like, okay, like what have I done and what have I done in the past year that has been really good and beneficial for me, and maybe what have I done that's not as beneficial, and then you kind of like help yourself grow. And then there's also the pressure of self-comparison and age-based experience in teenagers. I feel like a lot of times teenagers compare themselves, as we always talk about, and it can kind of take you down a spiral and being like, okay, I'm 17 now, but this other person is also 17, but she's doing so much more than I am, and that's so unfair. And I think we kind of have to change that mindset because it's not a good mindset to be in, and it's something that I've talked about in a lot of other episodes. So if something that you want to listen to, then definitely go ahead and listen to those. Next, I want to talk about kind of the new year, new me trap I find myself in. So it kind of creates unrealistic pressures to completely reinvent yourself. I feel like every year it's like on your birthday you should like be a completely new person, which I don't think you should do, because one, it's not even possible to like fully like be a new person. But I think there are ways to quote unquote like help you and like reinvent yourself. For example, maybe when you were the year younger you didn't go to the gym as much, so this year instead your goal is to go to the gym more and work out more. That is like smaller goals that you can attain that to reinvent yourself. And then there's also this idea of like self-growth, and that's healthy, and then chasing an identity that isn't actually you. And I think that's something a lot of people struggle with. They're just like doing something because other people are doing it, and oh, it looks so fun when they do it, let me do it too. And then they actually don't end up doing it for themselves, and then it doesn't stick because you're not doing it out of your own personal interest. You're doing it to fit in with everyone else, which is really bad. And then I just think that there's a social media role that plays into this. As always, I think social media it amplifies the pressure that you have to be doing something by a certain age, which is 100% not true. Everyone can do whatever they want, literally whatever they want, and that is so fine. Next is kind of the reinventing to realigning. I think it's the goal of your kind of new year, new me is not to change who you are, but to make adjustments that feel right to you. So if you were doing something that feels good to you, for example, if you want to work on yourself more this year, do it for you and try to realign your standards instead of trying to reinvent yourself. Because at the end of the day, you can't just reinvent yourself in a day or in a weekend. That's literally impossible. Maybe you can reinvent yourself for a singular day, but that's about it. You're not going to be able to do that for a lifetime and keep up with it. So just taking it one day at a time and really just making sure that you are making adjustments that feel right. And small and consistent changes are definitely a lot more sustainable than dramatic resolutions that you might think are helpful, but they're really not. I think if you take it day by day, like I said, and just do it out of your own will, you're going to be able to actually sustain this kind of idea of changing yourself for a lot longer, and it will stick with you. And I use my birthday as a checkpoint, not a deadline. So it's like, okay, like today's my birthday. This is what I wanted to do. This is what I have done. So now let me see what else I can do to kind of help change that. And then seeing from there, oh, okay, here is something I've done. Now let me try to do something new. And then you're just kind of building on top of it with smaller and smaller things. Next, I think the birthday journaling is something I really like to do, just reflecting. I want everyone to reflect, even if it's not your birthday. It's just, what's one thing I learned this year or have been learning this year, and what is one thing I want to bring into the next year? I think these are some really good questions to just kind of kickstart your brain and you're thinking about your birthday and kind of, taking your birthday in and making sure that it's really something that you want to reflect on, and if you want to grow as a better person, it's something that can be really beneficial and useful. And I like to kind of reread my prompts from the years and see how I've changed as a person. It's definitely really interesting. And you can set gentle intentions instead of rigid resolutions. I think if you say, okay, today I want to drink this much water, instead of saying I have to, because I think there's a certain mindset shift that can happen when you kind of force yourself to do something, which we've talked about in a bunch of episodes. And then also just celebrating the moments, celebrating your progress instead of kind of always being like, oh, I'm missing this, missing that. It's definitely important to just take time for yourself and be happy for the moments that you should be happy in. And obviously, growth doesn't have a timeline. Birthdays are just reminders, not ultimatums. Just because it is your birthday doesn't mean that that is the end-all be-all and that you can't try to accomplish your goal from the previous year. I think goals are meant to be changed and grow with you. And I think you guys should just reflect and celebrate and keep evolving at your own pace. I think that's really important. I know this was a bit of a shorter episode, but I just really want to get it out for you guys, and I don't know, I felt like we talked about a lot of good things. And again, if you all, any time you have something that you want to talk about on the podcast, definitely let me know, DM me on Teen Talk Central, whatever. And I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in next week's episode of Teen Talk Central. Bye.